The December wind cut through the train station like a blade, but it wasn't the cold that stopped him, it was her. Huddled on a metal bench, white coat stained and trembling, Dr. Simone Hayes looked like a warrior who'd lost her final battle. And when their eyes met across the platform, something in billionaire lawyer Jonathan Pierce's carefully constructed world cracked wide open. Welcome back to CJ Stories, where we bring you emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul. If you're just joining us for the first time, you're welcome to this wonderful big family. We're so glad to have you here. Please make sure to watch till the end, and if today's story moves you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this video with your family and loved ones. Now, let's dive into today's story. Jonathan Pierce didn't take trains. Men of his caliber, senior partner at Pierce & Rothman, net worth hovering somewhere north of $3 billion, penthouse views that made visitors weep, didn't ride public transportation. They had drivers, chauffeurs, helicopters, if the mood struck. But tonight, December 17th, at 11:43 p.m., Jonathan Pierce stood on the platform of Chicago's Union Station, his $12,000 cashmere coat doing little against the wind that howled through the tunnels like a living thing. His Bentley had died somewhere on Lake Shore Drive. Just stopped. As if the universe itself had decided that Jonathan Pierce, who controlled courtrooms with a lifted eyebrow and dismantled corporate empires before lunch, needed humbling. Red lines delayed, a transit worker called out, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Signal problems. Could be 20 minutes, could be an hour. Jonathan's jaw tightened. He had a flight to catch. Tokyo. A merger worth $400 million waiting on his signature. His phone buzzed, his assistant, probably, wondering why his location tracker showed him in a train station like some common commuter. He ignored it. That's when he saw her. She sat alone on a bench near platform 3, so still she might have been a sculpture. A black woman, late 20s maybe, wearing a white coat that had once been pristine but now bore the abstract art of a brutal shift, coffee stains, what looked like blood on one sleeve, a tear near the hem. Her hair, natural curls pulled back in a bun that had surrendered hours ago, framed a face that was all sharp angles and exhaustion. Her hands, clasped in her lap, trembled. Not from cold, Jonathan realized. From something deeper. She wasn't wearing gloves. Her fingers were reddish-purple, the color of frostbite's early warning. A stethoscope hung around her neck like a talisman. Her shoes, practical sneakers, the kind nurses wore, had holes in them. Actual holes. Jonathan felt something stir in his chest, something he'd spent years burying beneath depositions and closing arguments. Curiosity. Or maybe recognition. He'd seen that look before. In mirrors, a lifetime ago. "Miss." His voice came out rougher than intended. "Are you all right?" She didn't respond. Her eyes, deep brown, almost black in the station's harsh fluorescent light, stared at something only she could see. The thousand-yard stare. He'd seen it in veterans, in witnesses to tragedies, in people who'd watched the world break apart. Jonathan glanced around. The platform was emptying. A handful of commuters huddled near the heaters, absorbed in their phones. No one else seemed to notice the woman slowly freezing on a public bench. He moved closer. "Miss? Can you hear me?" Still nothing. Up close, he could see the ID badge clipped to her coat, Dr. Simone Hayes, resident physician, Sacred Heart Medical Center. The photo showed a different woman, bright-eyed, smiling, the kind of smile that suggested the world still made sense. "Dr. Hayes?" He kept his voice gentle, the tone he used with skittish witnesses. "I'm Jonathan. I think you might be in shock." Her eyes flickered. Found his face. For a moment, they focused, and Jonathan saw intelligence there, fierce and burning, before the fog rolled back in. 36 hours, she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, wrecked. "I've been awake for 36 hours. Jonathan's stomach twisted. "You're a doctor? Resident." The word came out like a confession. "Second year. There was a bus accident. 43 patients. I lost." She stopped. Swallowed. "I lost 3 of them. 3 people who woke up this morning and had breakfast and made plans and now they're just gone." Her hands were shaking harder now. Jonathan shrugged out of his coat without thinking, the cold immediately biting through his suit jacket. He draped it over her shoulders. It swallowed her, this tiny woman drowning in cashmere that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "You're freezing," he said. "I couldn't get warm," she murmured, pulling the coat tighter. "Even in the hospital. Even with the heating on full blast. I just couldn't get warm." "When did you last eat?" She blinked. Yesterday? Maybe? There was a vending machine sandwich around noon, but I gave it to Gloria. She's an ER nurse. She's pregnant. She needed it more." Jonathan felt something crack wider in his chest. You gave away your food. She's eating for two. Simone said it like it was obvious, like personal suffering was just part of the job description. The train announcement crackled overhead. Red Line service will resume in approximately 45 minutes. We apologize for the delay. 45 minutes. Jonathan looked at this woman, this doctor who'd fought for 36 hours straight, who'd lost patience and given away her food and was now hypothermic on a train platform, and made a decision that would have horrified his therapist. Come with me, he said. Simone's eyes narrowed, focusing properly for the first time. I don't know you. No, you don't. But you're in shock, possibly hypothermic, and definitely malnourished. I'm guessing you live? He glanced at her ID badge again, noting the address printed on the back. South Side? That's another 40 minutes on the train, minimum. You won't make it. I'll be fine. She started to stand, then swayed. Jonathan caught her elbow, steadying her. When's the last time you checked your own vitals, doctor? She glared at him. Even exhausted, even trembling, there was fire in those eyes. I don't need a. Your lips are blue, Jonathan said quietly. Your hands can't stop shaking. You're showing signs of moderate hypothermia. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take you somewhere warm, get food in you, and make sure you don't die of exposure on a train platform. Then, if you want, you can go home. Deal? Why? The question was sharp, suspicious. Why do you care? Jonathan paused. Why did he care? He'd walked past homeless people without a second glance. Ignored panhandlers. Built a fortune on calculated indifference. But standing here, watching this woman who'd given everything to save strangers, he couldn't seem to remember how to be that person. Because someone should, he said finally. What would you do if you found someone who'd given everything to help others? Would you walk away, or would you step in? Simone studied him, her doctor's eyes cataloging details, expensive suit, confidence that came from money, hands that had never seen hard labor. You're rich, she said flatly. Guilty. And you just help random people at train stations? First time for everything. She laughed, a broken sound. I must look pathetic. You look like someone who saved lives today, Jonathan corrected. There's a difference. Something shifted in her expression. Not trust, exactly, but a loosening. A surrender born from exhaustion. If you're a serial killer, I'm too tired to fight back. Not a serial killer. Just a lawyer. Somehow that's not reassuring. Jonathan smiled despite himself. My driver's outside. 5-minute ride. There's a hotel restaurant that never closes. Warmth, food, and I promise you'll be safe. You have my word. The word of a lawyer, Simone muttered, but she let him guide her toward the exit, his coat still wrapped around her shoulders. The December cold hit them like a physical force as they emerged onto Canal Street. Jonathan's driver, Marcus, 62, former Marine, already had the car running, passenger door open. Mr. Pierce? Marcus's eyes widened, taking in the disheveled doctor, the missing coat. Change of plans, Jonathan said. The Peninsula Hotel. Main entrance. Marcus, to his credit, didn't ask questions. He simply nodded, waiting until they were settled in the back before pulling into traffic. Simone sank into the leather seats like a woman lowering herself into deep water. Her eyes closed. This is a mistake, she whispered. Probably, Jonathan agreed. I don't even know your last name. Pierce. Jonathan Pierce. Her eyes snapped open. The Jonathan Pierce? Pierce and Rothman? The lawyer who destroyed Hendricks Pharmaceutical in court last year. You followed that case? Everyone in medicine followed that case. She turned to face him fully, exhaustion momentarily forgotten. You proved they knew their drug was killing patients. You got them fined $800 million. You probably saved thousands of lives. Jonathan shifted uncomfortably. I did my job. You did more than that. Something like respect crept into her voice. We studied the case in medical ethics. You didn't just win. You made them hurt. Made them accountable. They hurt a lot of people, Jonathan said quietly. They deserve to hurt back. The car glided through Chicago's late-night streets, past towers of steel and glass that reflected the city lights like fallen stars. Simone pressed her forehead against the window, watching the world blur past. I'm going to lose my residency, she said suddenly. Jonathan frowned. Why? Because I can't do this anymore. Her voice cracked. 36-hour shifts. Patients dying while I'm too exhausted to think straight. Making decisions with a brain that's been awake so long it's basically mush. Today, I hesitated. During a code. Just for a second. And that second might have. She stopped. Breathed. I can't afford to hesitate. But I can't afford not to. Because I'm human, and humans break. Sounds like the system's broken, Jonathan said. Not you. Tell that to the families of the people I couldn't save. Did you do everything you could? Yes. Then that's all anyone can ask. It's not enough, Simone whispered. It's never enough. The car pulled up to the Peninsula Hotel, all gleaming stone and warm golden light spilling from the windows. A doorman materialized, opening Simone's door with practiced precision. She hesitated. I look like I've been in a war zone. You have been, Jonathan said. Come on. The hotel restaurant was called The Terrace, a study in understated luxury with soft lighting, fresh flowers on every table, and a late-night menu that probably cost more than Simone's monthly student loan payment. The maitre d' took one look at Jonathan and immediately found them a quiet corner table, away from the handful of other diners. Simone sank into the chair like her bones had liquefied. I shouldn't be here. Why not? Because people like me don't belong in places like this. She gestured at the restaurant, the crystal glassware, the sommelier hovering discreetly nearby. I'm wearing a coat with someone else's blood on it. Then we'll get you a new coat. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, Jonathan said. It's human decency. There's a difference. A waiter appeared, young and earnest. Jonathan ordered without consulting the menu: French onion soup, roasted chicken, vegetables, bread, hot tea. Comfort food. The kind of meal that could anchor a soul. When the waiter left, Simone finally met his eyes. Why are you really doing this? Jonathan considered the question. The honest answer was complicated, threaded with memories he'd spent years trying to forget. When I was 23, he said slowly, I was homeless. Simone's eyebrows shot up. You? Mr. Three-Piece Suit? Hard to imagine, right? But yeah. My father was a drunk who gambled away everything we had. My mother died when I was 19. I put myself through community college working 3 jobs, then got a scholarship to Northwestern Law. But between undergrad and law school, there was a gap. 6 months. I had nowhere to go, no money, no safety net. So I slept in my car. Showered at the gym. Ate at soup kitchens. I remember. He paused, surprised by the ache in his throat. I remember what it felt like to be invisible. To have people look through you like you're not even human. Simone's expression softened. What changed? A professor. Criminal law. He found me sleeping in the library one night. Instead of having me thrown out, he asked why. I told him. And he said, I have a guest room. It's yours until you figure things out. No judgment. No strings. Just kindness. Jonathan shook his head. I stayed for 5 months. He wouldn't take rent. Said I could pay it forward someday. Is that what tonight is? Paying it forward. Maybe. Or maybe I'm tired of being the guy who only cares about winning. The food arrived, steaming and fragrant. Simone stared at it like it might disappear. Then she picked up a spoon and took a bite of soup, and Jonathan watched her eyes close in something approaching bliss. Oh my God, she breathed. I forgot food could taste like this. When's the last time you had a real meal? Define real. She was already reaching for the bread, tearing into it with hungry fingers. Most days it's whatever I can grab from the cafeteria between patients. Crackers. Stale sandwiches. Coffee that tastes like despair. Jonathan watched her eat, something warm and unfamiliar settling in his chest. Tell me about medicine. Why'd you choose it? Simone paused mid-bite. You really want to know? I wouldn't ask if I didn't. She set down her spoon, considering. My grandmother. She raised me after my parents died, car accident, I was 7. She had diabetes. Type 2. And she couldn't afford good care. The free clinic she went to, they didn't care. Treated her like a number. Didn't listen when she said something was wrong. By the time someone actually examined her properly, she'd developed sepsis. She died 3 days later. Simone's voice was steady, but her hands tightened around her napkin. I was 15. And I remember thinking, this is wrong. People shouldn't die because they're poor. Because the system doesn't see them. So I decided I'd be the kind of doctor who sees everyone. That's why you gave away your sandwich, Jonathan said quietly. That's why I became a doctor. She resumed eating, more slowly now. Turns out seeing everyone is exhausting. Caring about everyone is impossible. But I can't seem to stop. Don't, Jonathan said. The world needs more people who can't stop caring. Even when it breaks us? Especially then. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Jonathan found himself studying her, the way her shoulders slowly relaxed, the color returning to her cheeks, the sharp intelligence in her eyes as she looked around the restaurant, cataloging details with a doctor's precision. What's it like? She asked suddenly. Being that successful? Having that much money? Jonathan considered lying. Giving her the polished answer he gave at fundraisers and board meetings. Instead, he told the truth. Lonely. Isolating. You stop trusting people because you never know if they want you or your money. Every relationship becomes transactional. Every conversation has an angle. Sounds awful. It is. But it's safe. He met her eyes. No one can hurt you if you don't let them close. That's not living, Simone said. That's just existing. Says the woman who works herself into hypothermia. Touché. Jonathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then froze. The message was from his head of security. Sir, we have a situation. Someone's asking questions about you. About tonight. Says they saw you leave Union Station with an unknown woman. The tabloids are already circulating photos. This could be a problem. Attached was a grainy photo, Jonathan and Simone getting into his car, his coat around her shoulders, her face visible despite the darkness. Simone noticed his expression change. What's wrong? Jonathan looked up at her, this exhausted doctor who'd stumbled into his life by accident, and realized with sudden clarity that her world was about to get very complicated. We need to talk, he said quietly. About what happens next. Simone set down her fork, the warmth of the meal suddenly replaced by a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. What do you mean, what happens next? Jonathan turned his phone screen toward her. The photo was blurry but damning, the two of them clearly visible, his expensive coat draped over her hospital scrubs, the intimate way he'd guided her toward the car. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. She stared at it, her medical mind immediately cataloging implications like symptoms. Who took this? I don't know. Could be paparazzi. Could be someone with a phone and a Twitter account. Jonathan's jaw tightened. I'm sorry. I didn't think. That people photograph billionaires? Simone's laugh was sharp. Of course they do. I just didn't think I'd end up as collateral damage. It's not damage yet. My team can handle this. Issue a statement. The truth, I helped someone in distress. That's all. That's all? Simone pushed back from the table, suddenly feeling trapped by the crystal and linen and soft lighting. Do you know what happens to women who get photographed with powerful men? We become stories. Gossip. Our lives get dissected by strangers who decide who we are based on one grainy photo. Jonathan stood too. I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. She was breathing too fast now, the exhaustion she'd been holding at bay crashing back over her like a wave. I have to go. Simone. Dr. Hayes. Her voice was sharp, professional, the tone she used when a patient was coding and she needed everyone to focus. Thank you for the meal. And the coat. But I need to leave. Now. She started toward the exit, but Jonathan moved faster, positioning himself between her and the door. Not threatening. Just present. 5 minutes, he said quietly. Give me 5 minutes. Then if you want to go, I'll have Marcus drive you home. No questions. No obligations. But please. Just listen. Simone wanted to push past him. Wanted to run back to her tiny studio apartment where the world made sense, where she was just another exhausted resident, not someone in a photograph that could ruin everything she'd worked for. But something in his eyes stopped her. Not pity. Not calculation. Just genuine concern. 5 minutes, she said finally. Then I'm gone. They returned to the table. Jonathan didn't sit. Instead, he stood by the window, looking out at Chicago's glittering skyline, his reflection ghostly in the glass. When I made partner at 29, he began, I was the youngest in the firm's history. It should have been this amazing moment. Instead, it was the beginning of this. He gestured vaguely at the world beyond the window. Suddenly I wasn't just Jonathan anymore. I was Jonathan Pierce, boy genius. Jonathan Pierce, millionaire lawyer. Every decision I made, every person I dated, every mistake, it all became public property. So you know exactly what I'm about to go through, Simone said flatly. Yes. Which is why I can help you navigate it. He turned to face her. My publicist is the best in Chicago. She can control the narrative before it controls you. We tell the truth. I saw someone in distress and offered help. Doctor working a brutal shift, good Samaritan moment, end of story. And if they dig deeper? If they find out I'm drowning in student loans? That I'm one bad evaluation away from losing my residency? That my life is held together with caffeine and denial? Simone's voice cracked. I can't afford to be interesting to people like you. I can't afford the attention. Then we make you boring, Jonathan said simply. Brief encounter. Nothing scandalous. You go back to your life. I go back to mine. The story dies in 24 hours. It sounded reasonable. Logical. But Simone had learned long ago that logic and reality rarely aligned. Why do I feel like I'm making a deal with the devil? She asked. Because you're smart. Jonathan almost smiled. Look, I understand if you don't trust me. But I'm offering you something I rarely offer anyone: protection. Let me fix this. It's the least I can do. Simone studied him, this man who'd somehow become the most complicated thing in her very complicated day. What do you get out of it? Maybe I get to feel like less of an asshole. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. The waiter reappeared, discreetly clearing plates. Simone realized with a start that she'd eaten everything: the soup, the chicken, the vegetables. Her body had taken what it needed while her mind wrestled with chaos. Her phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. And again. She pulled it out. 7 missed calls. 12 texts. All from the hospital. Dr. Morrison, where are you? We need you back. Now. Dr. Reeves, Simone, you were supposed to cover the overnight. You just disappeared. Head nurse Gloria, honey, they're looking for you. Call me. Please. And then, the one that made her stomach drop. Dr. Catherine Walsh, program director, Dr. Hayes. My office. 8 a.m. tomorrow. This is not optional. No, Simone whispered. No, no, no. Jonathan moved closer, reading over her shoulder. What's wrong? I forgot. The words came out strangled. I was supposed to cover the overnight shift. After the bus accident, after everything, I was still on the schedule. And I left. I walked out. You were in shock. Hypothermic. They can. Simone's hands were shaking again, but not from cold this time. From fear. Pure, visceral fear. Residency isn't like a normal job. You don't get sick days. You don't get mental health breaks. You show up, or you're out. And I just abandoned my post. She stood abruptly, nearly knocking over her chair. I have to go. I have to get back there. I have to explain. Simone. Jonathan caught her arm gently. It's almost 1 in the morning. You're exhausted. Going back now won't help. I don't have a choice. Her voice rose, drawing glances from other diners. She didn't care. Do you understand what I've sacrificed to get here? For years of undergrad while working 2 jobs. For years of medical school with loans I'll be paying off until I'm 50. 2 years of residency where I've barely slept, barely eaten, barely existed as a human being. And it could all end tomorrow because I had a breakdown on a train platform. Then we make sure it doesn't end, Jonathan said firmly. We go to that meeting together. I'll explain what happened. I'll make them understand. You? Simone laughed bitterly. You think a billionaire lawyer showing up will make this better? They'll think I'm sleeping with you. They'll think I've been compromised. They'll think, she stopped, the reality crashing over her. Oh God. That photo. If that photo reaches the hospital before I do. Jonathan's expression shifted, understanding blooming. They'll see it as unprofessional conduct. They'll see it as proof I can't handle the pressure. That I'm unreliable. That I'm exactly the kind of doctor who cracks under stress and puts patients at risk. Simone felt tears threatening, hot and unwelcome. She'd promised herself she wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of him. But 36 hours of trauma, of loss, of holding other people's pain inside her body like a second skeleton, it all came flooding out. I held a woman's hand while she died tonight, she whispered. 42 years old. Mother of 3. She kept asking me to tell her kids she loved them, to tell them she was sorry she wouldn't see them grow up. And I lied. I told her she'd be fine, that we'd fix this, that she'd go home and hug her babies. Because that's what we do. We lie to make death easier. And then she was gone, and I had to move on to the next patient, and the next, like her life didn't matter, like those 3 kids who just became orphans didn't matter, because the system doesn't have time for grief. She was crying now, properly crying, the kind of tears that came from a place deeper than exhaustion. Jonathan didn't say anything. He just stood there, solid and present, until finally he asked, what was her name? What? The woman. What was her name? Simone blinked through tears. Patricia. Patricia Moreno. Patricia Moreno, Jonathan repeated, like a prayer. Her life mattered. Her children matter. And you carrying that pain, that matters too. Something in Simone's chest loosened. Not the grief. That would stay. But the terrible loneliness of bearing it alone. I don't know how to do this anymore, she admitted. Then maybe it's time to figure out a different way. What would you do if the career you'd sacrificed everything for suddenly demanded you sacrifice your humanity too? Would you keep fighting, or would you finally say enough? They sat back down. The restaurant had emptied further, just a couple in the corner sharing dessert, oblivious to the small crisis unfolding at the window table. Jonathan ordered coffee. Strong, black, the kind that could resurrect the dead. When it arrived, he pushed a cup toward Simone. Tell me about your program director, he said. Dr. Walsh. Simone wrapped her hands around the warm cup. She's formidable. Built Sacred Heart's residency program from nothing. She has standards. Very high standards. She doesn't believe in excuses. Is she fair? I think so. I don't know. I've never been on her bad side before. Then we appeal to her sense of fairness. Jonathan's mind was already working. She could see it, the lawyer in him cataloging arguments, building a case. You worked 36 hours straight. That's a violation of multiple labor laws, by the way. You responded to a mass casualty event. You saved lives. The fact that you then experienced acute stress reaction is not a moral failing. It's a human one. The medical system doesn't care about human, Simone said quietly. It cares about performance. Then we make her care. Jonathan leaned forward. Look, I've spent my career arguing impossible cases. And you know what I've learned? People respond to truth. Not polished, perfect truth. Raw, honest, this is who I am truth. You go into that meeting tomorrow and you tell Dr. Walsh exactly what you told me. About Patricia Moreno. About your grandmother. About why you became a doctor. You remind her that you're not a machine. You're a human being who gives a damn. And if that's not enough? Then I have a very expensive law firm on retainer, and we explore your legal options. Because making residents work 36-hour shifts without adequate rest? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Simone almost smiled. You'd sue my hospital? I'd sue God if he violated employment law. This time she did smile, small and fragile. You're kind of terrifying, you know that? Good. Maybe I can terrify Dr. Walsh into seeing reason. They drank their coffee in silence. Outside, snow had begun to fall, soft and white, transforming Chicago into something magical. Simone watched the flakes drift past the window, each one unique and temporary. I should go home, she said finally. Try to sleep. Be ready for tomorrow. I'll have Marcus take you. You don't have to. Simone. Jonathan's voice was gentle but firm. Let me do this. Please. She wanted to argue. Wanted to maintain her independence, her pride. But she was so tired. So deeply, bone-achingly tired. Okay, she whispered. The drive to her apartment was quiet. Simone sat in the back of the Bentley, Jonathan's cashmere coat still around her shoulders. He'd insisted she keep it, and watched her neighborhood approach. The contrast was jarring. From the peninsula's gleaming luxury to streets where half the streetlights were broken, where chain-link fences guarded empty lots, where the only businesses still open were liquor stores and laundromats. This is me, she said as they pulled up to a 5-story building with peeling paint and a front door that didn't quite close right. Jonathan looked at the building, then at her. Is it safe? Safe enough. Better than sleeping at the hospital. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Simone reached for the door handle, then paused. Thank you. For tonight. For caring. Simone. Jonathan's hand covered hers on the handle, warm and steady. I'm going to give you my personal cell number. If anything happens, anything, you call me. Before the meeting. After the meeting. Middle of the night. I don't care. You call. Why would you do that? He met her eyes, and something passed between them. Not attraction, exactly. More like recognition. Two people who'd spent their lives building walls suddenly finding an unexpected door. Because I think you might be the most genuinely good person I've met in years, he said quietly. And I'd like to not lose that. Simone felt her breath catch. I'm not that good. You gave away your last meal to a pregnant nurse. You held a dying woman's hand. You care so much it's destroying you. Jonathan's voice was rough with something she couldn't name. Trust me. You're that good. Before she could respond, he pulled out his phone, typed something, and a moment later her phone buzzed. Jonathan Pierce, call anytime. 8 a.m., he said. Dr. Walsh's office. I'll be outside the hospital. You don't have to do this alone. Simone nodded, not trusting her voice. She climbed out of the car, the December cold biting through even his expensive coat, and watched as the Bentley pulled away, red taillights disappearing into the snowy night. She stood there for a long moment, holding her phone, looking at his number like it might be a lifeline or a trap. She couldn't tell which. Finally, she climbed the 4 flights to her apartment. The elevator had been broken for 3 months, and let herself into her tiny studio. 1 room. A futon that doubled as a couch. A kitchenette with a hot plate and a mini fridge. Medical textbooks piled everywhere. The kind of place that spoke of impermanence, of someone just passing through on their way to somewhere better. She should shower. Should sleep. Should prepare for the meeting that could end her career. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and did what any rational person would do. She Googled Jonathan Pierce. The results were overwhelming. Billionaire lawyer Jonathan Pierce wins landmark case against Big Pharma. Pierce and Rothman named most influential law firm in corporate litigation. Jonathan Pierce, the man who makes corporations tremble. Photo after photo showed him in tailored suits, entering courtrooms, shaking hands with politicians, attending charity galas. Always alone. Never smiling. She found the Hendricks pharmaceutical case. Read the court transcripts. Watched news footage of him standing on courthouse steps, his voice calm and precise as he outlined how the company had knowingly pushed a defective cardiac drug, how they'd buried studies showing increased mortality, how profits had mattered more than lives. They made a choice, he'd told reporters, his face carved from stone. They chose money over people. Today, we made them pay for that choice. The jury had awarded $800 million in damages. The largest verdict in Illinois history. Simone kept reading. Found profiles, interviews, puff pieces about his success. But between the lines, she found something else: loneliness. Isolation. A man who'd built an empire but seemed to live in it alone. One article from 3 years ago caught her eye. Jonathan Pierce on why he'll never marry. I've seen what happens when people love you for your money instead of your soul. She clicked. Read his words. Every relationship becomes a transaction when you have this much wealth. People pretend to care about you, but they care about what you can do for them. I'd rather be alone than be someone's meal ticket. At least loneliness is honest. Simone closed her laptop. Looked around her tiny apartment. Looked at the coat she'd draped over her futon, cashmere soft as a cloud, smelling faintly of expensive cologne and something else, something warm and human. She thought about the way he'd looked at her when she cried. Not with pity. With understanding. She thought about his offer to stand beside her tomorrow. To face Dr. Walsh together. And she thought about how dangerous it would be to start depending on someone like Jonathan Pierce. Someone who lived in a different world. Someone who could afford to care because caring cost him nothing. But maybe, she was wrong about that last part. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Get some sleep, Dr. Hayes. Tomorrow, we remind them who you are. She smiled despite herself. Typed back. Who am I? The response came immediately. Someone who saves lives. Don't let them make you forget that. Simone woke at 3 a.m. to her phone ringing. She grabbed it groggily, expecting the hospital, expecting another emergency. Instead, it was an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her hit accept. Dr. Hayes? The voice was female, professional, cold. This is Rebecca Matthews from the Chicago Tribune. I'm working on a story about your relationship with Jonathan Pierce. I was hoping you could comment on. Simone hung up. Her hands were shaking. The phone rang again. Different number. Then again. By 3:15 a.m., she'd received 7 calls. The photo had gone viral. She pulled up Twitter with dread. The hashtag Billionaire Doctor was trending. Hundreds of tweets. Thousands. Who is the mystery woman with Jonathan Pierce? Billionaire lawyer spotted with hospital worker, new romance? Breaking, sources say Pierce picked up a homeless-looking woman at Union Station. Is this a scandal or a love story? Someone had already identified her. Her name was being shared. Her hospital. Her residency program. And then she saw it, the tweet that made her stomach turn to ice. Sacred Heart Medical Center resident Simone Hayes photographed with billionaire Jonathan Pierce hours after allegedly abandoning her shift. Hospital sources say investigation underway. Medical ethics. Her career wasn't going to end in Dr. Walsh's office. It was going to end on social media. She tried to call Jonathan, but her hands were shaking too hard to dial. The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. Outside, a car pulled up. Not Jonathan's Bentley. A sedan. 2 people got out, cameras raised. Photographers. At her apartment. At 3 a.m. Simone backed away from the window, her heart hammering. This was happening. This was really happening. Her phone lit up with a text from Jonathan. Don't answer the door. Don't talk to anyone. I'm coming. Hold on. But as she stood in her tiny apartment, watching flashbulbs illuminate her windows, Simone wondered if holding on would be enough. Or if everything she'd worked for was already gone. Jonathan arrived at 3:47 a.m. in a black SUV with tinted windows, flanked by 2 security personnel who looked like they could bench press small cars. He moved through the photographers like a shark through water, swift, efficient, unbothered by their shouted questions. Mr. Pierce. What's your relationship with Dr. Hayes? Is this a romantic involvement? Did you know she abandoned her patients? He ignored them all, climbing the 4 flights to her apartment 2 steps at a time. When he reached her door, he knocked softly. Simone. It's Jonathan. The door cracked open. Simone's face appeared, eyes red-rimmed and wild. How did you know which apartment? I looked at your ID badge. Third floor, Unit 3C. He glanced at the peeling paint, the broken overhead light. Can I come in? She stepped back, letting him enter. The apartment was smaller than his walk-in closet. Jonathan took it in with one sweep: the medical textbooks, the futon, the single hot plate, the pile of scrubs in the corner. The life of someone who'd sacrificed everything for a dream. They're downstairs, Simone said, her voice hollow. Taking pictures. My neighbors are probably awake. Mrs. Chen next door has a heart condition. The stress? My security is clearing them out, Jonathan interrupted gently. They'll be gone in 10 minutes. They'll just come back. Not to this building. I've already spoken to your landlord. He's putting up no trespassing signs. Anyone who comes back gets arrested. Simone stared at him. You spoke to my landlord? At 3 a.m.? Money talks. Even at 3 a.m. Jonathan moved closer, studying her face. Have you slept at all? How could I sleep? Have you seen Twitter? They're calling me a gold digger. A scandal. Someone posted my medical school debt, $420,000, and said I was obviously seducing you for money. There are Reddit threads dissecting my life. They found my high school yearbook photo. They're calling me, her voice cracked. The things they're calling me. Jonathan's jaw tightened. What things? It doesn't matter. Simone. What things? She turned away, arms wrapped around herself. The racial slurs started around 3:30. Apparently some people have very strong opinions about a black woman being photographed with a white billionaire. There are memes. Jokes about me being a diversity hire. Speculation about whether I'm actually qualified to be a doctor or if I slept my way through medical school. Jonathan felt rage bloom in his chest, white-hot and dangerous. He'd dealt with media storms before. Scandals. Hit pieces. But this targeted destruction of someone who'd done nothing wrong, this was different. I'm going to destroy them, he said quietly. You can't destroy the internet. Watch me. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. Rebecca? Jonathan Pierce. Yes, I know what time it is. I need you to put together a response team. No, not tomorrow. Now. I want our crisis management team on this immediately. Full court press. We're going scorched earth on anyone spreading false information about Dr. Hayes. I don't care what it costs. Yes, legal action against every platform that doesn't take down defamatory content. Rebecca, I'm not asking. Make it happen. He hung up, then immediately dialed another number. Martin? I need our cybersecurity team to trace the source of the medical debt leak. Someone at Sacred Heart or the loan company violated privacy laws. I want names. By morning. Thank you. Simone watched him work, this billionaire lawyer transforming her tiny apartment into a war room. You can't save me from this. I can try. He turned to face her fully. Simone, I've dealt with media crises for 20 years. I know how to control narratives. But I need you to trust me. Trust you? She laughed bitterly. I met you 6 hours ago. 6 hours, and my entire life is falling apart. It's not falling apart. It's under attack. There's a difference. Jonathan stepped closer. The people coming after you? They're not doing it because you did anything wrong. They're doing it because you're vulnerable. Because they can. Because tearing people down is easier than building them up. But here's what they don't know. You have resources now. You have protection. You have me. I don't want to need you, Simone whispered. I know. But right now, you do. So let me help. A knock at the door made them both freeze. Jonathan moved in front of Simone instinctively, protective. Dr. Hayes? A woman's voice, muffled through the door. It's Gloria. From the hospital. Simone's eyes widened. She pushed past Jonathan and opened the door. Gloria stood in the hallway, still in her nursing scrubs, her pregnant belly prominent under her coat. She took one look at Simone's face and pulled her into a fierce hug. Oh honey, Gloria murmured. I came as soon as I saw the news. You should be sleeping. You worked a double. So did you. Until you couldn't anymore. Gloria pulled back, her dark eyes sharp with concern. She noticed Jonathan for the first time, recognition flickering. You're him. The lawyer from the photo. Jonathan Pierce. He extended his hand. You're the nurse who got Simone's sandwich. Gloria's eyebrows rose. She told you about that? She tells me you're eating for two. Congratulations. Thank you. Gloria studied him with a nurse's assessing gaze, the kind that could spot a lie from 50 paces. Whatever she saw made her nod slightly, as if confirming something. Then she turned back to Simone. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Dr. Walsh's meeting? It's not just about you leaving last night. Simone's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Dr. Morrison filed a formal complaint. Said you were emotionally unstable during the bus accident. Said you froze during a code, that you put patients at risk. Gloria's expression was furious. It's bullshit. I was there. You saved 11 people last night. 11. You worked like a machine even when the rest of us were falling apart. But I did freeze, Simone said quietly. For maybe 3 seconds. During Mrs. Patterson's code. I just blanked. You blanked for 3 seconds after being awake for 34 hours, Gloria corrected sharply. Anyone would have. But Morrison's using it as ammunition. He's been gunning for you since you called him out for that misdiagnosis 6 months ago. This is revenge. Jonathan's attention sharpened. What misdiagnosis? Simone shook her head. It doesn't matter. It matters, Gloria interrupted. Dr. Morrison missed an ectopic pregnancy. The patient almost died. Simone caught it, saved her life, and made Morrison look incompetent in front of the entire surgical team. He's had it out for her ever since. So this complaint is retaliation, Jonathan said, his lawyer brain already cataloging. Do you have witnesses? Half the ER staff saw what happened during the bus accident. They'll testify that Simone was a hero, not a liability. Gloria's hand went protectively to her belly. I'll testify. Even if it costs me my job. It won't, Jonathan said. Because if Sacred Heart fires anyone for telling the truth, they'll have a whistleblower lawsuit that'll make national headlines. Gloria smiled grimly. I like him. Can we keep him? Despite everything, Simone almost laughed. He's not a stray dog, Gloria. Could have fooled me. He showed up at 3 a.m. to protect you. Gloria squeezed Simone's hand. Look, the meeting's at 8. But there's something else you should know. The board of directors is involved now. The photo, the media attention, they're worried about the hospital's reputation. Dr. Walsh might not have the final say anymore. The board, Simone repeated numbly. So it's already decided. They're going to fire me. Not if we get ahead of this, Jonathan said. Gloria, can you get me a list of everyone who witnessed Simone's work during the bus accident? Every doctor, nurse, paramedic. I want statements from all of them. You want to build a defense file, Gloria realized. I want to build a fortress. Jonathan's smile was sharp, dangerous. They want to destroy her career? Let them try. But they're going to have to go through an army of witnesses, documented evidence, and a legal team that specializes in making hospitals regret their decisions. Have you ever watched someone fight for you the way you've always fought for others? How does it feel to not be alone in the battle? Gloria left 20 minutes later, armed with a list of tasks and a new fire in her eyes. The photographers were gone, dispersed by Jonathan's security team and the threat of legal action. Simone sat on her futon, exhausted beyond words. Jonathan had taken over her tiny kitchenette, somehow producing coffee and bagels from his security team. Apparently billionaires traveled with provisions. Eat, he said, handing her a bagel. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You need fuel for what's coming. She took it mechanically, chewing without tasting. Why are you doing this? We've established that already. No, really. Simone set down the bagel, looking at him directly. You could have dropped me off at the hospital last night and never looked back. Instead you're here at 4 a.m., mobilizing lawyers and security teams, treating my problems like they're yours. Why? Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down beside her on the futon, close enough that their knees almost touched. When I was homeless, he said slowly, there was this kid. Maybe 16, 17. Street kid. We'd see each other at the shelter sometimes. He was smart. Funny. Wanted to be an engineer. But the streets, they're not kind to dreams. One night, he got jumped. Beaten so badly he ended up in the hospital. And when he got out, he was different. Broken. The light in his eyes, just gone. Jonathan's hands tightened around his coffee cup. I saw him a few weeks later. Asked how he was doing. And he said, I'm fine. I'm always fine. Nobody cares anyway. And I didn't argue. Didn't push. I just nodded and walked away. Because I was so focused on surviving, on escaping that life, that I couldn't spare energy for anyone else's pain. What happened to him? Simone asked softly. He's dead. Overdose, 3 months later. I found out years afterward, when I was already at the firm. Already wealthy. Already untouchable. Jonathan's voice was rough. And I thought, what if I'd done something? What if I'd cared more? What if I'd used what little I had to help instead of just surviving? He turned to look at her, and his eyes were raw with old grief. I can't save that kid. But I can help you. And maybe that means something. Simone felt tears prick her eyes again. I'm not your redemption. No. You're a good person getting destroyed by a bad system. And I have the power to stop that. He touched her hand, brief and gentle. Let me stop it. Please. She wanted to say no. Wanted to maintain her independence, her pride. But the truth was, she was drowning. And he was offering her a lifeline. Okay, she whispered. At 6 a.m., Jonathan's team arrived. Not at Simone's apartment. He'd moved them to a nearby hotel conference room to avoid drawing more attention to her building. Simone sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent, watching lawyers and publicists and crisis managers fill the room. Rebecca Chen, Jonathan's head publicist, was a tiny Asian woman with steel in her eyes and a tablet that never left her hands. Dr. Hayes, she said briskly. Let's talk strategy. The narrative right now is, mysterious woman, potential scandal. We're going to change that to, heroic doctor saved by compassionate lawyer. By the time we're done, you're going to be a sympathetic figure, not a target. How? Simone asked. We control the story before it controls you. Rebecca swiped through her tablet. I've already reached out to 3 major outlets. They're all interested in an exclusive interview, your side of the story. The 36-hour shift. The bus accident. The patients you saved. Jonathan finding you in distress and offering help, which any decent human would do. We frame this as a story about the brutal conditions medical residents face, not a scandal. But the hospital will look like villains if they fire you now, interrupted Martin Walsh, Jonathan's head of litigation. Silver-haired and sharp as a scalpel. Which is exactly what we want. Public opinion is a weapon, Dr. Hayes. And right now, we're loading the gun. Another lawyer, younger, eager, spoke up. We've also identified 14 violations of resident work hour restrictions in your program over the past 6 months. The 36-hour shift alone is enough for a lawsuit. If they try to fire you, we countersue for workplace endangerment. Simone's head was spinning. I don't want to sue the hospital. I want to be a doctor there. Then we use the threat of a lawsuit as leverage, Martin said smoothly. They drop the complaint, you keep your residency, everyone moves on. And if they don't drop it? Then we bury them, Jonathan said quietly. He'd been standing by the window, watching the sun rise over Chicago. Now he turned to face the room. But let's try the peaceful route first. Simone goes to the meeting. She tells her truth. We have Gloria and the other witnesses ready to testify. We present this as what it is, a resident who gave everything and then experienced acute stress reaction. A human response to an inhuman situation. And if Dr. Walsh isn't sympathetic? Simone asked. Then I step in. Jonathan's expression was carved from ice. I've already looked into Sacred Heart's funding. They receive substantial grants from several foundations I'm connected to. If they want to destroy your career over this, those funding relationships become very complicated. Simone stood abruptly. No. You're not threatening my hospital. You're not using your money to bully them. Simone. I mean it, Jonathan. Her voice was sharp with desperation. If you do that, even if I keep my residency, everyone will know I'm only there because of you. Because of your money and your threats. I'll never be taken seriously as a doctor. I'll always be the one who needed a billionaire to save her. The room went silent. Jonathan studied her, something like respect flickering in his eyes. Then what do you want? He asked. I want to fight my own battle, Simone said. I want to walk into that meeting and defend myself. My work. My choices. And if they fire me anyway, if they decide I'm not good enough, then at least it'll be my failure, not your charity. Rebecca looked alarmed. Dr. Hayes, with all due respect, going in without backup is what I need to do, Simone finished firmly. She looked at Jonathan. You can be there. Outside the building. As support. But not in the room. This has to be mine. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay. Your way. Sir, Martin protested, that's not strategically. It's what she wants, Jonathan cut him off. And it's her career. We do this her way. At 7:30 a.m., they drove to Sacred Heart Medical Center in Jonathan's SUV. The media had gotten word about the meeting, of course they had, and the hospital's front entrance was a circus of reporters and cameras. Simone stared at them through the tinted windows, her stomach churning. I can't do this. Yes, you can, Jonathan said. They're going to ask questions. Say horrible things. So you don't answer. You walk past them like they don't exist. Head high. Remember who you are. He caught her hand, squeezed gently. You're Dr. Simone Hayes. You saved 11 lives 2 days ago. You've survived medical school, survived residency, survived a system designed to break you. A few reporters with cameras? That's nothing. Simone took a shaky breath. What if I lose? Then we figure out what's next. Together. Jonathan's eyes were steady, certain. But I don't think you're going to lose. Because people like Dr. Walsh, people who build programs, who care about medicine, they recognize real dedication when they see it. And you, Simone Hayes, are the real deal. The security team cleared a path. Simone stepped out of the SUV and immediately the questions started. Dr. Hayes, are you in a relationship with Jonathan Pierce? Did you really abandon your patients? Is it true you're under investigation? Simone kept walking, just like Jonathan said. Head high. Eyes forward. Ignoring the cameras, the microphones thrust in her face, the shouted accusations. She made it through the hospital doors, where security kept the media out. The lobby was eerily quiet, early morning patients and staff watching her with open curiosity. Gloria appeared from nowhere, linking her arm through Simone's. Come on, honey. I'll walk you up. They took the elevator to the 5th floor, to the administrative wing where careers went to die. Dr. Walsh's office was at the end of a long hallway, her name on a brass plate, Dr. Catherine Walsh, Director of Medical Education. You've got this, Gloria whispered, squeezing her hand. Simone knocked. Come in. Dr. Catherine Walsh sat behind a mahogany desk that had probably witnessed 1,000 career-ending conversations. She was in her 60s, black woman with silver-streaked hair pulled back severely, wearing a white coat over a navy suit. Her expression was unreadable. But she wasn't alone. 3 other people sat in chairs along the wall, Dr. Morrison, looking smug. A woman in a business suit Simone didn't recognize, probably from the board. And a man with a hospital ID that read legal department. Simone's heart sank. They'd brought lawyers. This wasn't a conversation. It was an execution. Dr. Hayes, Dr. Walsh said, her voice level. Please, sit down. Simone sat, feeling like a defendant at trial. Dr. Walsh folded her hands on the desk. I'll be direct. We've received a formal complaint about your conduct during the mass casualty event 2 nights ago. Dr. Morrison has alleged that you demonstrated emotional instability, that you froze during a critical code, and that you subsequently abandoned your shift without authorization. These are serious accusations. I can explain, Simone started. Furthermore, Dr. Walsh continued, as if Simone hadn't spoken, the photographs of you with Jonathan Pierce have raised concerns about professional judgment. The board is worried about the hospital's reputation. The woman in the business suit leaned forward. Dr. Hayes, we need to understand the nature of your relationship with Mr. Pierce. Is this a romantic involvement? No, Simone said firmly. I met him for the first time 2 nights ago. He found me at Union Station after my shift. I was hypothermic and in shock. He offered help. That's all. That's quite convenient, Dr. Morrison said, his tone dripping with skepticism. A billionaire just happens to rescue you, and now he's outside with an army of lawyers? He's outside because the media is harassing me, Simone shot back. Because a photograph of a doctor accepting help has somehow become a scandal. The scandal, the legal representative said coolly, is a resident who abandoned her post. Who put patients at risk. Who's now using her connection to a wealthy, powerful man to avoid consequences. Simone felt rage bloom in her chest. I didn't abandon anything. I worked for 36 hours straight. I triaged 43 patients. I performed CPR until my arms gave out. I held dying people's hands and made promises I couldn't keep. And yes, when it was finally over, I left. Because I was hypothermic, exhausted, and experiencing acute stress reaction. Because I'm human. Being human is a luxury residents can't afford, Dr. Morrison said. That's exactly the problem. Simone was on her feet now, all the fear and exhaustion burning away into pure fury. You created a system that treats us like machines. That demands we work until we break. And then when we break, when we have human reactions to impossible situations, you call it unprofessional. You call it unacceptable. You destroy careers to prove a point. Dr. Hayes, Dr. Walsh started. No. I'm not finished. Simone's voice shook but held. You want to know about that 3-second freeze? Fine. Here it is. I was coding Mrs. Patterson. 67-year-old woman, cardiac arrest. And for 3 seconds, I saw my grandmother's face instead of hers. My grandmother, who died because doctors didn't care enough to listen. And I froze. Because I was terrified of becoming the doctor who doesn't care. The doctor who's so numb, so exhausted, that patients become numbers instead of people. The room was silent. But then I kept going, Simone continued, her voice breaking. I did my job. I saved her. She's alive right now because I didn't give up. And that's what you should be evaluating. Not 3 seconds of human fear, but the fact that I fought through it. That I keep fighting, every single day, even when this system does everything it can to break me. Dr. Walsh's expression had shifted, something like understanding creeping in. But the board representative's face remained stone. That's a very moving speech, Dr. Hayes. But it doesn't change the facts. You left your shift. That's abandonment, regardless of the circumstances. Then charge me, Simone said. Fire me. Do whatever you need to do. But know that when you do, I'm going to tell the truth about this place. About the 36-hour shifts. About residents so exhausted they can barely function. About a system that values productivity over patient safety. And maybe, someone will finally care enough to change things. The legal representative's eyes narrowed. That sounds like a threat. It's not a threat, Simone said quietly. It's a promise. Because I became a doctor to help people. And if I can't do that here, then I'll do it somewhere else. But I won't be silenced. Dr. Morrison laughed. You think anyone will hire you after this? With a termination on your record? With a scandal following your name? You're finished. Simone met his eyes. Maybe. But at least I'll finish with my integrity intact. Can you say the same? The words hung in the air like a challenge. Dr. Walsh stood abruptly. I think we need a recess. 10 minutes. Everyone, please step outside. Dr. Hayes, you stay. The room cleared. Dr. Morrison shot Simone a look of pure venom as he left. The door clicked shut, leaving just Simone and Dr. Walsh. The director moved to the window, looking down at the street where Jonathan waited. That's quite a defender you have down there. I didn't ask for him. I know. I looked into it. Dr. Walsh turned to face her. The footage from Union Station. It confirms your story. You weren't meeting him. He approached you. Offered help. Simone's breath caught. There's footage? Security cameras. My office requested it this morning. Dr. Walsh's expression softened slightly. Dr. Hayes, I need you to understand something. I built this residency program 30 years ago. I've trained hundreds of doctors. And the ones I remember, the ones who matter, aren't the ones who never made mistakes. They're the ones who cared so much that mistakes destroyed them. Who broke and then found a way to rebuild. I don't understand, Simone whispered. You froze for 3 seconds during a code, Dr. Walsh said. Dr. Morrison wants to end your career over it. But I read Gloria's report. And 11 other staff members' reports. Do you know what they all said? Simone shook her head. That you were extraordinary. That you saved lives they didn't think could be saved. That you worked with a level of compassion and skill they rarely see, even in attending physicians. Dr. Walsh's voice was firm. 3 seconds of fear doesn't erase 36 hours of heroism, Dr. Hayes. And anyone who says otherwise is a fool. Tears spilled down Simone's cheeks. So, I'm not fired? Not by me. But the board. Dr. Walsh hesitated. They're worried about optics. About the media. About the photograph with Mr. Pierce. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's reality. Dr. Walsh moved back to her desk, pulled out a file. However, I've been doing this a long time. And I've learned how to fight battles. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to recommend you continue your residency with a formal reprimand on your record, standard procedure for leaving a shift without authorization. Dr. Morrison's complaint will be noted but not upheld. And you'll complete an additional ethics training module on self-care and recognizing burnout. That's it? That's it. Provided you agree to 2 conditions. Simone tensed. What conditions? First, you work with our staff psychologist. Not as punishment, but as support. Because what you experienced, that acute stress reaction, that's trauma, Dr. Hayes. And you can't help patients if you're drowning in unprocessed trauma. And the second condition? Dr. Walsh's eyes were sharp. You use this. What happened to you, the media attention, the spotlight, you use it to advocate for change. For better resident work conditions. For the things you talked about in this room. Because you're right. The system is broken. And maybe, you're the one who can help fix it. Simone couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. So, Dr. Walsh said. Do we have a deal? Before Simone could answer, her phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan. Whatever happens, you did beautifully. I'm proud of you. She looked at those words. At this man who barely knew her but believed in her anyway. Then she looked at Dr. Walsh, at this woman who'd built a program and was now offering her a second chance. We have a deal, Simone said. But as she stood to leave, the door burst open. Dr. Morrison stood there, his face red with fury. This is unacceptable. She should be terminated, not coddled. Dr. Morrison, Dr. Walsh said coldly, this conversation is over. No, it's not. Morrison advanced into the room. I know what this is really about. Pierce's money. His influence. He's probably threatened the hospital, hasn't he? Threatened to pull funding unless we keep his little Finish that sentence, a new voice said from the doorway, and I'll sue you for defamation before you can blink. Jonathan stood there, flanked by 2 lawyers. His expression was terrifying in its calm. You can't be here, the legal representative protested, appearing behind him. This is a private. I'm here as Dr. Hayes's legal counsel, Jonathan interrupted smoothly. Which is my right, given that this meeting could impact her career. And I've heard enough to know that Dr. Morrison's complaint is retaliatory in nature, stemming from a professional dispute 6 months ago. Which, incidentally, is illegal. Morrison paled. That's not. We have witnesses, Jonathan continued, his voice sharp as broken glass. We have documentation. We have a timeline that shows you've been undermining Dr. Hayes ever since she corrected your misdiagnosis. So here's what's going to happen, you're going to withdraw your complaint. Immediately. Or I'm going to make your life very, very complicated. You can't threaten me, Morrison blustered. I'm not threatening. I'm informing. Jonathan's smile was cold. You see, I've spent the last 4 hours reviewing Sacred Heart's records. And I've found some interesting patterns. Complaints you've filed against 5 other residents, all women, 4 of them women of color. Allegations that never quite stick but somehow keep appearing. It's almost like you have a problem with people who don't look like you. Which is, coincidentally, also illegal. The room went deathly silent. Dr. Walsh's expression had gone from firm to furious. Dr. Morrison. Is this true? Morrison looked trapped. Those complaints were legitimate. Were they? Jonathan pulled out a tablet, handed it to Dr. Walsh. Because our analysis suggests otherwise. Every single one correlates with the resident in question either correcting your work or outperforming you in evaluations. That's not legitimate complaints. That's a pattern of discrimination and harassment. Dr. Walsh's hands shook as she scrolled through the data. When she looked up, her eyes were blazing. Dr. Morrison. You're suspended, effective immediately. Pending a full investigation. You can't do this to me, Morrison sputtered. I'm a senior attending. You're a bully, Dr. Walsh said flatly. And you're done. Security will escort you out. As Morrison was led away, still protesting, the room slowly emptied until only Simone, Jonathan, and Dr. Walsh remained. Dr. Walsh looked at Jonathan with something like grudging respect. That was quite an entrance, Mr. Pierce. I couldn't let him destroy her, Jonathan said simply. He turned to Simone. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to fight this alone. But when I heard him in there. Thank you, Simone interrupted softly. Thank you for having my back. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Something that felt like the beginning of trust. Dr. Walsh cleared her throat. Dr. Hayes. Report to the ER in 2 hours. You're back on duty. And Mr. Pierce? I don't know what your relationship with Dr. Hayes is, but, thank you. For caring. Not many people in your position would. She's worth caring about, Jonathan said. And in that moment, standing in an office where her career had almost ended, Simone realized something terrifying and wonderful. She was starting to believe him. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next.